You're not listening to your wife. You're building your defense. She starts telling you how something felt, and halfway through, you're already sorting out what she got wrong. You walk away with your side ready. But what hurt her never actually got through to you. Look at the proof you've been using. You stayed in the room. You didn't walk out. You didn't shut down. You looked at her. You let her finish. You kept your voice level. You explained what you meant. You corrected the parts you thought were wrong, so the conversation stayed honest. That's a real list. You did those things. I'm not saying you made that up. But every item on that list only proves one thing. It proves you heard the words. It proves you were physically there for the conversation. It does not prove you were actually with her while she was talking. A man can hear every sentence, remember the timeline better than she does, keep his tone flat, and still spend the whole conversation getting his response ready. Calm on the outside, building his case on the inside. That's the gap. You measured whether you stayed composed. You measured whether you got the facts right. You measured whether your explanation made sense. You never measured what you were doing with her words while she was still saying them. Were you listening for what was hurting her, or were you listening for where her wording slipped? Because if you were already looking for the weak spot in her sentence, you weren't there for what she was trying to say underneath it. So what did you actually respond to? What she said, or what she was trying to bring to you? There's a reason you reach for explanation, and it's not weakness. She says something that isn't accurate. Maybe she says, never. Maybe she takes one bad night and turns it into who you always are. Maybe she leaves out the part where you did show up. And something in you tightens, because if you let that sit there without answering it, now you're agreeing to a version of yourself that isn't true. That's not ego. That's a man trying to still make sense to himself inside his own marriage. So you learned to hold the line. Stay calm. Keep your voice even. Fill in the missing context. Correct the part that went too far. You were taught that fairness means both people are working from the same facts. That a serious conversation can't stand on an exaggeration. That if you let something false go by, you're not being gentle. You're being dishonest about who you are. So you do what feels like the mature thing. You explain. You clarify. You give her the full picture so she can judge you on what actually happened, not just on what came out when she was upset. And under all of that, you really believe that once the record is straight, the real conversation can start. You're not trying to win. You're trying to be understood before you get judged. From your side, explaining yourself doesn't feel like dodging her. It feels like asking for a fair read. She says one sentence about feeling alone, and you already have your answer ready. She says, "You never really hear me." And before she even gets to the next sentence, your mind is already on Sunday night. The hour you sat with her about her mother. The Thursday she came home upset about work, and you stayed up with her. You are not trying to hurt her. It's just that the word never puts you on trial fast, and you do not want to sit there and take it. So you keep your voice calm. You say, "That's not fair. I sat with you for an hour on Sunday." And you're right, you did. Sunday happened the way you remember it. But look at what just happened in the room. She was trying to tell you how she feels. That slow, quiet feeling of reaching for you and not really getting through. And in 10 seconds, the whole thing turned into an argument about whether Sunday counts. She did not come in to argue about Sunday. She came in trying to tell you why she keeps ending up at the word never. Not because there were 0 good moments. Because the moments that did happen didn't reach the part of her that still hurts. You answered the charge and missed what she was actually asking for. What she was asking for was simple. Stay with me long enough to understand why I keep ending up here. Instead, you proved you were not guilty of the exact sentence she used. Your defense was accurate. And she's still sitting there alone, now with one more reason to think her pain has to survive a cross-examination before it gets to matter. You cleared your name, but you missed what she was actually asking for. Run that forward 6 months. Nobody announces the change. It just settles in. She still talks to you. She still tells you about her day. But when something really hurts, she gets to it faster now. She gives you the headline, not what's under it. And she starts more sentences with, "I'm not blaming you," or "This isn't a big deal, but..." She does that because she's learned the real concern isn't going to land on its own. When you start explaining, she lets it go sooner. She used to push back. She used to try again from a different angle. Now she nods. She says, "You're right. That came out wrong." And the conversation ends. You think it ended because you cleared it up. It ended because she decided it wasn't worth trying again. You notice the house feels easier. Sunday nights aren't as tense as they used to be. There are fewer long talks that go nowhere. So you think maybe the two of you finally figured something out. Look at what she does with the part she stopped bringing to you. Sometimes she takes it to a friend. Sometimes she writes it down. Sometimes she sits with it in the car for a few minutes before she comes inside. The hurt is still there. It just doesn't come into the kitchen looking for you anymore. The conversations that are left are real. Kids, money, weekend plans, who's picking up what. You're still a team on the logistics. But under that, the part where she used to tell you what she was afraid of or what she was hoping for, that stopped showing up. And you don't miss it because the surface still works. By the time the complaints stop, the part of her that was reaching for you may have stopped too. The old measure was simple. Did you stay calm? Did you let her talk? Did you explain your side without raising your voice? If all three happened, you told yourself you listened. That measure is not wrong. It just tells you the conversation happened. It doesn't tell you whether what she was carrying actually got through to you. A harder measure asks something else. When she said it clumsy or too strong, or used a word that wasn't quite fair, did you go after the hurt under the wording or the flaw in the wording? Did you hear the imperfect sentence as a way into what she was feeling, or as your chance to clear your name? You don't have to agree with everything she said. You don't have to drop the facts, but the order matters. Understanding before correction. Impact before intention. Her experience before your evidence. That's not some small detail. It's the difference between a conversation that builds something and one that just keeps score. The real question isn't whether the hard talks got shorter or calmer. It's whether she brings more of herself to you over time or less. Whether the deeper part of what she's carrying still comes into the room, or whether she quietly stopped trying to explain it in a way you'd actually let her finish. You explained your side, but the thing she was actually trying to bring you either landed somewhere after that, or she learned to stop bringing it.
You scrolled past the last one of these. She raised the same thing twice this month, and you scrolled past that too. Subscribe now before this becomes another habit you can't see in yourself.